Okay.
Good evening, and I'd like to welcome you and call to order our Lucan Biddulph Council meeting for Tuesday, July the 14th. Is this going to be the hottest day of the year? I'm taking wagers. I would like to acknowledge that I am an ally of Indigenous peoples. The township of Lucan Biddulph is located on the treaty and traditional territory and ancestral lands of many Indigenous peoples and is covered by several Upper Canada treaties. We honor and respect the history, language, and culture of the diverse Indigenous peoples who call Lucan Biddulph home. We endeavor to unlearn colonial mindsets and practices and to grow in knowledge. As we build meaningful relationships, we recognize contributions of Indigenous peoples and respect their leadership and partnership in shaping and strengthening our community. We acknowledge historic and ongoing injustices that Indigenous peoples endure in Canada, and we affirm our commitment to honoring Indigenous voices, nations, and cultures, and to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none. We have no formal additions to the agenda, but the report that was going to be added at a later time was added, so we're good there. No closed session, but we do have a delegation tonight, and I'm pleased to welcome to the speaker's podium our friends from the Strathroy Hospice Committee, Taylor Damon Tyler. I knew I was going to get that wrong. And they're going to present to us about a project that they're undertaking for Middlesex County. So over to you. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and members of council and staff for having us come this evening to talk to you. There we are. So my name is Tyler Damon. I am the board chair for Strathroy Hospice. This is an undertaking that we've been about 5 years has been our project, and it's really taken shape in the last 3. But we're here because we want to share how far we've got and why we're doing what we're doing. So Middlesex County remains one of the only few areas in Ontario without any residential hospice beds. And we were asking for support as we work to bring the compassionate end-of-life care to closer to home for families in our county. So why hospice? So currently, Lucan does have Jessica's place relatively close, but for the rest of the Middlesex County, it's far. It's a big distance for everybody to go towards it. So we, when families reach the point of hospice care is needed, they only have a few options, and that's to travel outside the county, remain in the acute care of the hospital beds, or enter long-term care homes that aren't really designed for end-of-life care, or try to manage complex care at home. So these are the most difficult days of a family's lives, and residents of Middlesex County deserve the same opportunity as to receive compassionate end-of-life care close to home as all the neighboring communities. So the need for hospice care will only continue to grow as the population moves through. So population is aging, residents are living longer, and with illnesses such as cancer, heart disease, COPD, and dementia, neurological diseases. So it's showing that we need even more. What we need to add to it. But what it will help with is it will remove it will move people from the hospitals. We get to use better use of hospital beds, fewer emergency room visits, reduce healthcare costs, and better outcomes for patients and families. So can you go back one slide? Yeah, perfect. So Strathroy Hospice is only the name that I put on a piece of paper, like 5 years ago because I needed something to register to become a business. It's just a placeholder name. It's not going to be called Strathroy Hospice. It will be renamed by a large donor or something like a lot of the different hospices are. I didn't realize then that it would be a real pain that this was it. 'Cause if you're in Mount Bridges, you're not very happy with that name. So we will not stay that, but if you're in Lucan, maybe too. It's become a big, but it's just a placeholder and it will be renamed, but we're still branded as Strathroy Hospice right now. But it will serve everybody, all residents throughout all of Middlesex County, including our rural communities and indigenous communities. Families shouldn't have to leave. We want to build a hospice that feels rural so that the members of our communities that we all know that where have grown, lived on farms their whole life, have a place that the only option isn't to go to the city of London or to a place where they're looking at the back of a industrial setting or to like a McDonald's parking lot or something like that. We want it to be something special for the people of our county. And I think that's our goal, is to change that. So right now our hospice, can you go slide 5? Perfect. It came out a few years ago, it's 5 years ago, that the hospice, there was lack of beds was huge in our area. So Middlesex County, London Middlesex is the only one in the red in all of Ontario. We have 0 beds in Middlesex County at all. That has right now, that's not the latest one. The last meeting we were at, that shows 38 beds. The newest one is 48 beds, and 10 beds are needed in London. So we still are at 38 from Middlesex County. We have applied to the Middlesex Ministry of Health for 5. We're not looking to like replace this gap. We're just wanting to start the process. And our whole goal is to do our first one and then help build the framework to help everybody else in the different areas that would like to follow suit to help build this, to fill this gap out. So even with that 5 beds, we'll still be a shortage of like 30 beds. So it's not even taking a dent in it, but we are hoping to build the process. It's not been easy. It has been a very difficult battle to get to where we already are. So everything I've learned in that process, I want to share with the rest of the county. Is this video gonna work on here?
Well, I think it's just,
We don't have to.
yeah. Have another file version.
I'll just move past it. It's okay. No, it's okay. I'll keep talking. Can you go back up though, right before that? So the location that we're trying to go for is right between Mount Bridges and Strathroy. So the shape of our county makes it difficult to get right central, but we feel like this one spot is a good section for that far end. And then we have other choices for like in future where we would want to build if we could. The video was one of our board members talking about her experience and having to take her husband all the way to Waterloo for hospice care just because they had a family members there, so they were able to get him in. But for here, like my journey started because my father-in-law was in the hospital and we had no options. So luckily I had a rental house that was empty, so I brought him home there, had full-time care there, brought in. I was able to have that situation, but most people really don't. So that's where kind of the whole vision started, and we've been on this battle. So where we are today is we have made tremendous progress in the last little while. We've had support from healthcare leaders across the region: Middlesex Ontario Health, Sarnia Lambton Health Team, Ontario Health at Home, and Middlesex Hospital Alliance. These organizations have come behind us and support that this hospice care is the missing piece in our county. So their support will also strengthen our Ministry of Health application. The project is no longer being viewed as just an idea. It now is being supported as a proper healthcare initiative. Now we go forward. So here's where we are at. we started like a year and a half, 2 years ago-ish with zero. And our goal is to raise 5 million to build. Our budget to build the building will be about 5 to 6 million. So our capital came down was 5 million. We have raised just through a bunch of board members pushing through. We've raised 1.55 million so far. But we have commitments that put us, we're close to 4 million with it once we get the next step in the beds and the shovels in the ground. So our vision, we can move forward. Our vision is to build approximately 8,000 square foot building that's going to be like a house. We want it to be like feel like at home, feel like you're going out to a rural community. And we want reflective gardens. We want 5 private patient suites that you can have a back patio to go out, watch the animals, see the pond. And we want it to be very peaceful and have full access. And we're going to have support for not just the individuals, but the family as well. That's a very important part of it for us, is to make sure we have care for everyone involved and that the whole process is taken care of. So that picture is the aerial view of the location that we want to build it at. Land has been being donated to us by a very generous family. So we're hoping that we can move forward in that project when it would be built right back in the back corner near that pond. And that kind of is a concept picture of what we want it to look like. But obviously we're very still early on in that stage because we don't want to spend too much money yet. And then next slide. So this is our board of directors. Just to introduce us, that's myself. My vice chair, Darren McAuliffe, he's been running old age homes for years. And so it comes with a wealth of knowledge. And then the team of individuals that I put together, including my father, comes with very unique skill sets that we will use to move forward to make sure everything's in place, from funeral directors to like what's Alicia's? She's like a pharmacist, accountant. He was a building inspector in Strathroy for 30 something years, 35. Just short of 30. So it comes with a wealth of knowledge on how to get this together. So right now we are running on an absolute volunteer board. We don't have a single staff on, and that's how we've been able to get so far and raise so much money. Or a lot of these times you have to have full-time staff, and it's just basically us volunteering and working pretty much full-time to get this going. That's our group. We're very, very, very impressive group of people. I've been more than overjoyed to work with them and how far we've gone. So how will this impact Middlesex County in closing? Municipal support will send a powerful message. It will demonstrate your commitment to healthy communities, supporting seniors, supporting caregivers, improving healthcare access, and ensuring residents can remain close to home at end-of-life care. We also hope that this hospice becomes the model, like I said earlier, to help other communities across Middlesex County establish future hospice services. So tonight we're asking for support for our ministry health applications, support to bringing hospice care closer to home, and support to ensuring that no family has to leave Middlesex County to receive compassionate end-of-life care, and that residents deserve this access to end-of-life care. So I really appreciate your time. If anyone has a question, we'll answer them.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for your presentation. You will turn to council for any questions or comments. Councillor Regan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I may, thank you very much for the presentation. I know from personal experience how important it is to families to have a place close. My question would be, so I appreciate your work. I'm just wondering, is there a time frame for this that you've before you put this into place?
Well, the time frame is we've been going, like the problem, our only rate limiting step so far is that it was zoned agricultural. So we're having to go through the process of converting that zoning into institutionals, which has been the rate limiting step through all of it. If we got through at the municipal level in Strathroy Caradoc, if we can go through it, get it past that county, then we're about, I would imagine we're shovels in the ground. And next June would be where we would hope to be if everything goes as planned.
Okay, thank you. May I ask another question, Madam Mayor? So in the presentation, you've mentioned a couple of times just about the fact that there's per capita, there's more seniors in the rural area than there and in urban areas. So the percent, but what I'm just was wondering is this is just for anybody that's experiencing end of life trauma? I may have missed that. I hope that's not a
Yeah,
bad
so
question. It's not just people that are older, it's just.
No, it's
And-
everybody,
Okay.
everybody. There's one being built or being fundraised for in London right now for just pediatric care that will specialize in. Ours our plan is to accept anybody and everybody so it's not just for seniors, it's for anybody that is experiencing, that needs end of life care.
Okay,
And that can range massively on how long people are in these facilities for. It can be days and it can be months. There's been people that are months long in there, but no, we don't have any specific on who can go. It's just for people within Middlesex County.
okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Any other questions, Deputy Mayor Manders?
Just at the end there, when you're talking about that what you needed from us, do we need to support or something, an application? Is that what you had mentioned? I just want to, like, for right now, it's, you didn't mention, right now, when we have a small amount set aside for obviously donations, but see at the end of the year, but it didn't sound like anything monetary. I just want to see, was there anything we needed to do as council?
No, my message right now is I just basically, as we're getting further along, I didn't want to keep it all being very super Strathroy oriented. I wanted to get the word out that this is what we are doing. So it's not, but I had to get it past the next first step at municipal level. So right now our goal is to just basically let people know where we're at. If there is ever time when we're coming through to ask for support, it wouldn't be just us randomly knocking. I just wanted to kind of get the word out.
Yeah, no, I think that's great awareness for our community, and anyone that wants to donate, they know they can. So thank you.
Any other comments? Councillor Westman?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So like Councillor Reagan, I have a personal stake in this myself. You made a good point in your presentation about long-term care homes that don't necessarily have hospice care available. They do have palliative care rooms for their own residents, but there's no availability to the public for access. And I mean, while we do have a lot of long-term care homes in Middlesex County, and the capacity is pretty high, there is nothing for anybody who's not a resident of a long-term care, and it's difficult to get in, especially if you're in end-of-life care, because that's not their business model. They're there to maintain and help the people that are in need of it. But yeah, no, I think it's great what you're doing, and I wish you the best in it, because I think it's something that we could really benefit from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments? Just, Tyler, you said, have you put you're going to put up an application in for 5 beds, or like, when is that? Like, that's not going to happen
No, we put in our applications.
You've put in the applications.
So they came out in 2024. They put out the EOI for applications. We put in our full application. But because we don't have land, there was a release of 96 beds in Ontario. They've all been put out in the 3-year plan. We've asked for if anything would come back, but because we didn't have all of everything ready to put our shovels in the ground, we put in the 8-year group. It doesn't mean we can't get it before then. We're just in that group. So once we get our full application, full business model, which is all complete, but everything is just concept until we get the land. Because right now we're just a business and a registered charity that wants to build this, and has all of our design is there, but we're just waiting.
And the Ministry of Health only offers these beds in certain chunks of time. So it's not like every year they're releasing or they're so many beds. It's, they have a plan and it, yeah, okay.
This was the first time they've ever offered capital towards beds. So we were
Mhm.
really hoping to get it because there could be up to 250,000 in capital to build.
Mhm.
So we hyper hurried to get there and hopes that our application was so strong, that our application was really strong, but because we're the only ones in Middlesex County, but a lot of long-term care facilities were taking their rooms and saying, hey, we want that capital to convert into, so there's a lot that went out that way, which is kind of disappointing because it's not the same.
Right.
It is converting to what it is. And again, it's the rate. People from the outside can't get in. All of the points that you made are very, very frustrating throughout the process. But in the end, it is like Field of Dreams situation. If you build it, then they will help. So we always had the goal that we were going to build it regardless. And then once you build the rooms, then they will come in with operational funding, which they'll give you approximately 150 to $175,000 per year per bed for nursing staff, everything, and then the rest has to be fundraised. So we're sticking to 5 beds, because I don't want to run into donor fatigue early. I don't want to take 15 years to do this. I think we need this in a hurry. So we're going a small amount of beds at the beginning with the ability to expand into 5 more beds. So then we'd have 10. But once we get the land, once we have that, our application goes in and then we move forward regardless.
Okay. I appreciate that clarification. Okay, one last call for questions. All right, well, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate you coming out to Lucan on a warm night. Certainly, I would ask that you just keep us updated as your progress. And if there's ever a time when you need a letter of support or something, that formal request can come back to council and then council can decide that. But certainly, just keep us up to date as to where you're at. And I'll be honest, we met last week, so had a great conversation about kind of where the hospice was. So I know you're doing good work, and we look forward to seeing how you can continue that and benefit our community.
Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it.
Okay, with that, I would just ask for a mover and a seconder to receive that for information, please. Councillor Regan and Councillor Westman. Daniel. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So we have in front of us a set of minutes from June 16th. And nothing needs to be changed in those. I would ask for a mover and a seconder to approve those as circulated. Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Westman. All in favor? And that's carried. So there's a number of items on the consent agenda, and I have heard that Councillor Regan would like to speak to 2 items. Would anybody else like any items pulled for discussion?
1.
Okay, which one is that?
9-1.
Okay, and, okay, that's it. All right, so we will start with, well, we'll just go down in order of number, if you're okay with that, Councillor Regan. So let's start at 9-1.
All right, thank you very, oh,
No, if we,
I can,
because you're 9-2 and you're 9-10.
I thought it was 9-1 and 9-2 and 9-10, but that's okay. I'll defer to the deputy mayor.
Oh, that was late breaking news
Yes,
that
ma'am.
I just received.
That's my fault. It's
That
my-
9-1 was
my fault
included
to
in your
defer to-
list.
I can defer to the deputy mayor. He can go first.
Okay.
Seniority.
Looking here. Jeff, just if you could just elaborate a little bit, maybe where things sit on, where is it there? Downtown project, I mentioned to you, the department. Township, sorry, I'm just. Wastewater, it was on the investigation into some infiltration there, I think, so. The water system? Yep.
Lights off. There we go. And through the mayor, yeah, I can give council a little more update on that item. Actually today, myself and our bylaw officer did go down and meet with a business that we saw traces of an oily substance that was coming into the sanitary system. We looked at, had a talk with them. They did, previously to our visit, did do a bunch of cleanup work there. So it looks like they have tried to correct the problem. It was a minor incident. And it looks like the owner of the property is on top of things there. Over the next week or two, we'll still keep an eye on things, but it looks like that's been corrected.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, was there another item on 9.1? Was there anything else in Jeff's report that you wanted to speak to? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. May I? All right. Thank you. Just Jeff, for the first, on the first page under department, for the downtown lighting project completed, looks great. But the question I had was about the banner installation. Needs to be worked out. And so I was just going to ask about the banners for the Legion, the vet banners. I know a number of people have purchased those and get to see those up. And then the other ones with the banners that we have for economic development as well. I'm just wondering if there's been a remedy for that, if we figured something out to get those banners up.
Yeah, and we're through the mayor. So I've had a little discussion with Lisa, and we're going to have a meeting shortly. And the interesting part in the banners is they're different sizes. So to put the two different banners up, we have to have two different sets of brackets. And then it turns out in the brackets, there's different size posts, and there's a lot of different items that you can have for a banner to go up on a streetlight pole. So we're going to work all that out. All the banners will eventually, we'll be working towards getting all the banners being able to go back up. Definitely the veteran banners will get put back up. We just got to figure out the best combination of the banners that promote and Lisa, I call them Lisa's banners, and the vet banners, and see how we can all put that together. So it is going to get worked out. It's just a little complicated with the new poles.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Hodgins, did you have a comment on Jeff's report? Oh, okay. I actually did as well, Jeff, and just wondered, can you just refresh me what part of Coursey Line is having the culvert replacement?
The Coursey Line, there's it's up by, it's the Cunningham Drain. So it's on the gravel portion just north of, I believe it's Mooresville. And it'll be closed down for the week. So it's, and again, I don't have my map in front of me, but I believe it's
okay.
more between there. So it is in the gravel portion, and it'll be closed for about a week.
Okay, and then just with the MTO and Gowdy Drain, like that's a long time to be waiting for their comments.
Yeah.
And they were here in town.
I agree. Unfortunately, we keep getting stonewalled. Every time we seem to contact the MTO, it's the permit's just around the corner. And they've been telling us that now for the last couple of months. We've had the permit submitted since last September. And we've been pushing for it to get done for the last couple of months. The drain itself's been put in. We just can't do the road crossing until we get that permit. So we're feeding the higher flows through the old pipe underneath the road, which isn't ideal because the pipe can back up and creates all sorts of problems with flooding and that sort of thing. So we're hoping, like literally, we're in contact every other week with the MTO. Hopefully, this permit can show up. I've been told that they're trying to figure out traffic control for the highway, which is interesting considering they wrote the book on traffic control. So we'll see. Hopefully the permit can come through shortly.
Thank you for that. Okay, if everyone's done 9.1, then Councillor Regan, you wanted to speak to 9.2 and 9.10, correct? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I guess my question is going to be for Ron. For this one, so I was reading the two letters that are attached from residents for Richmond Street South, talking about number of safety concerns they have with respect to like no sidewalks, those sorts of things. And I know this is something that we've been looking at and trying to get some action on. So I'll be brief with it because I was looking at 12.1C to come a little bit later this evening. And I'm just wondering if that recommended motion is sort of a step towards resolving this issue, because there's a lot of safety concerns at that corner. There's other things that have happened there. And I think what we need to do is in that area, in that stretch. So I'm just wondering what steps we're taking and whether or not that motion is going to move us a little bit quicker towards getting this fixed. Thank you.
So through the mayor to Councillor Regan, the short answer is yes, it is. And I will talk more about it during that
Of
report.
course, yes. Okay, all right, that's fine. Okay, thanks. Okay, the last, yes, the last one has to do with the OPP, sorry. Just let me bring it up so I'm not, it's the letter that we got, the OPP news release on the on the e-bikes. So, and being an e-bike rider, I was really interested in it, of course. What I'm I guess looking at is when we get information like this from the OPP, is it incumbent upon the township to get the information out and educate people? Is it also our responsibility through bylaw enforcement to do this, to make sure that this is taken care of? Is this highway traffic? I guess it does say highway traffic, but I'm just wondering, does this fall on the township to enforce this? And I guess my third part to that, just to be brief, is when we think about that, do we also think about e-scooters as well? Because that has become quite prevalent in our community with those vehicles as well. They are powered, they do move quite quickly. One of the reasons that I would just bring an example, specifically with the e-scooter, was the people were coming out of a building downtown and just about got hit by one that was up on the sidewalk. So that was brought to my attention a couple of times as well. So I'm just wondering, with all of that, do we take a look at, is it again is it our responsibility to educate people? Again, I know it came out July 1st and people have the responsibility to know the law. However, just is it again incumbent upon us to do that? And do we enforce that? So I guess my question, Madam Mayor, would be to our CAO.
So through the mayor to Councillor Regan, it is a Highway Traffic Act piece of legislation. So that is enforced by the OPP. Do we have an obligation to educate our public with regards to that? I would say, you know, we certainly can make mention of it because it does impact our community. So certainly through our communications officer, we can do some social media posts and some education that way. I think that would be appropriate. Your other part of your question was, is there a role for our bylaw enforcement officers to play in this? Our bylaw enforcement officers don't enforce the Highway Traffic Act. Again, education could maybe come into that a little bit if we see something, but right at the present time, no, our bylaw enforcement officers do not have a mandate to enforce this.
All right. Okay. Thank you. All right. Thanks.
Okay, were there any other items that we received on the consent agenda that anybody wanted to speak to before we move on? Okay, seeing none, then I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive those items on the consent agenda for information, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Regan. All in favor? And that's carried. On to the correspondence received. If there were any items that we wanted to speak to, and I think, Ron, you were going to speak to the first one, which was the Plimpton, Wyoming. Mhm.
So again, at the last meeting, we talked about that this was forthcoming. I think at the last meeting, we just received this letter from Plimpton, Wyoming. And the request from Plimpton, Wyoming, oh, sorry, I just realized the mic was not on. The letter from Plimpton, Wyoming was basically a request to the province to basically have a second round of funding for the development charges reduction program, specifically aimed at small, rural, and northern municipalities. Since that time, it has been announced by the ministry and confirmed at a regional CAO meeting in London that the Ministry of Infrastructure is going to come out with another round of funding specifically aimed at those three sectors, the small, the rural, and the northern municipalities. So to support this would really be an exercise in futility. It'd be redundant because we know that the ministry has confirmed that something is coming. So it is on there because we said we'd put it on the list so that we're aware of it, but I don't think there's any point in council passing a motion at this point in time.
Okay, questions on that or anything? The other one, I don't necessarily think we need to necessarily have a support resolution, but 10.4, which comes from WOWC on the property assessment cycle. And I might say that might be something that we might want to keep in the back of my mind, in our minds, or watch. We don't know if there'll be an announcement or anything about property assessment at AMO. Certainly the resolution that's attached is an excellent resolution. And I might say we might want to revisit it in September after AMO, if there's nothing on it, to maybe consider either just a support resolution or passing that resolution in, trying to urge the province to come up with a new property assessment cycle. We've been promised that, of course, for a number of years now, and we haven't had that. So I'm just mentioning it, just for future discussion. Okay. Any other items? Okay, seeing none, then I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive and file those correspondence items, please. Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, on to committee reports. Blue Water,
Nothing to report.
CEDC.
Nothing to report at this time, Madam Mayor.
Nothing from Lake Huron. There was a Biddulph Blanchard Fire Board meeting last evening. Some of it we'll be discussing later with the chief, but minutes will be published at a later date. ABCA.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We did meet June 18th was our last meeting. Nothing significant to report out of that meeting. We are meeting again this Thursday.
Thank you. Parks and Recreation,
I have nothing for this meeting, Madam Mayor.
Trails.
Nothing.
Okay. On to staff reports. And the first one is from Ron.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report before council tonight is in regards to the development charges update. We have had for a little while now. Council has spoken about the potential reopening of the development charges in recognition of the rather large grant that we received from the province to update our sewage treatment plant in Lucan. So knowing that council has stated that their intent is to reopen it once that grant has been received. The grant has been received. Construction has actually started. So that really gave rise to this report. The report really speaks to the fact that, yes, to reduce our development charges in recognition of that grant is one part of the big picture. When we reopen it, it's like I should clarify a bit. If that's all that council wants to do is just simply recognize the contribution of the grant towards the construction costs of the sewage treatment plant expansion, you can do that fairly simply and fairly quickly. I've had a discussion with our consultant on the matter, and it's not a full-blown redo of the entire process for development charges. So if all you're going to do is reduce it, you can do that fairly quickly. My fear as a staff member for council is that we know that there's other things that need to be inserted into the development charges. So I think what we've tried to be in the past is fairly consistent and not get the highs and then lows again. So we don't want to see it drop substantially only to have to bring it back up again. Again, you don't get too many kudos when it goes down. However, you certainly feel it when it goes back up. So I think in recognition of all those factors, we know we're going to have to insert, the number one recommendation in the Parks and Rec master plan was a second ice pad. That's a substantial capital project. So I think council would want to insert that into the next 10-year window when you redo your development charges. There's also updating of construction costs for some of the larger capital projects like urbanization of Main Street North, urbanization of Main Street South, and the urbanization of Saintsbury going north. So all those projects, if we're going to do all that, we need to have those numbers, and we're close to getting those numbers for example, for the second ice pad. But the other big part of this is we just let a contract to BM Ross to do a sanitary master servicing study that's going to look at some major, again, capital works to service the growth areas that were just approved in our official plan. And the timing for that report is next June. We won't, it hopefully will be sooner, but that is the date that BM Ross gave us, that report will be submitted to council by June of 2027. So add into that the complicating factor that we know there's a second round of development charge reduction grant funding that's supposed to come out. It hasn't formally been announced yet, so we really can't deal with it at this point in time. What we can deal with is how does council wish to proceed? So that's where I get the two options. If council wants to do the quick and dirty one to drop it, you can certainly do that. However, that's not my recommendation, because I think that's not servicing the ratepayer, and that's who we serve. And I think at the end of the day, the government program that basically did away with the HST on new houses, I think that was a big boon to developers, and I think that has spurred interest in construction. And we do have interest in development in Lucan. It's not as if we don't have anything. So we are, I think, well positioned that way. So there, at the end of all that, staff's recommendation is that council delay updating the current development charge bylaw until the completion of the BM Ross sanitary master servicing study, which we expect will be in June of 2027. So again, there's a lot of information in this report. Hopefully everybody had a chance to read it. Happy to answer any questions, but that's sort of the quick and dirty of where we are.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Ron. I know that a lot of time was spent putting that together. Comments from council, questions? Deputy Mayor.
Well, I like Ron's recommendation, and I think that's why we discussed the need to ideally keep BM Ross on their timeline. And then that way we can see what the new outcome looks like for DC charges, whether they do go down a little bit from there with everything encompassed, or whether they go up a little bit from there. But no, I think that's sound advice. Thank you.
Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. I'd echo those comments of the deputy mayor. I'm supportive of the recommendation. I think just going in and, reducing them based on the grant funding may be a little bit short-sighted, just recognizing some of the other major capital works that, are on the horizon. We're talking a lot about that urbanization of the south end of Main Street, and with all the infrastructure as well, those are major costs. I'm not sure if that's really adequately covered in our background study right now. So I think we do have to do that more comprehensive look at the study at a later date. So I'm supportive of the recommendation to defer reopening that until the later date.
Councillor Regan.
I support, no, I'm in support of that. I just had a question, and I understand there's a lot of projects we have to figure out, but I'm just wondering, by delaying it, does it jeopardize any of that funding? Just so I understand. Well, just like if we reduce, we don't reduce, right? Is that, maybe I'm just.
Sorry, through the mayor,
Yeah.
which funding are you talking about
the
exactly? The
development.
18.5 million that we
No,
paid for the
no,
Central Plan, or-
any future funding, does that make
I don't,
sense?
I don't believe so, not at this point in
Okay.
time. If and when the province does come out with that second round of development charge
Right, that's what
reduction program,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to
Sorry.
delve into that fairly quickly. You know, yeah, we're all dealing in speculatives right now.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly what the details are gonna be. We know that the first round, there was only 19 days from the time the
Yeah,
announcement
that was pretty
to the
quick.
time you had to have
Right.
your application submitted. That's a very tight timeframe. If it's another tight timeframe, we're probably looking at a special council meeting to have to deal with that.
Right.
But again, until we actually see what's in there and what they're asking for, and then what that means, because there's a lot of details in that development charges program, the first round, that was, it caused me a lot of concern. There's a 10% right off the top that goes to the general tax levy. So if you are successful in getting some grant money, okay, for projects, assumedly that are under your development chart, in your development charges report, the municipality has to reduce their current development charges between 30 and 50%
Right.
for a minimum of 3 years. So that's a major,
Good chunk.
major cut.
Yeah.
Okay, so number one, what projects are we going to be eligible for? And what are those projects? Because for each project, whether it's Main Street North, Main Street South, or the north
Sainsbury.
part of Sainsbury line, there's a component that's for development, and there's a component that benefits the existing taxpayers already
Right.
in there. So if now you're going to add another 10% to the general tax base, I have to scratch my head and go, why, again, why are we doing, it's got to make sense, math. The math has to make sense for this to be good. And we can't answer those questions until we actually see the details and know
Right.
the details.
Okay.
So
No, I
at this
agree. No.
point, everything is premature.
No, that you answered that well for a question I didn't present very well, but thank you. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? I mean, I know that you've looked at the existing one that was rolled out. And I guess my concern is that because you said if it comes out and it's a quick turnaround, like it was when it was initially rolled out, like, are we prepared for that? And I mean, I'm supportive that I'll start by saying I'm supportive of delaying it until, but so let's just say for the sake of discussion, October 1st, they roll it out. And we've still got the wastewater treatment plant in there and we don't have anything else. Like, how does that factor into it? Right?
Well, you'll be happy to know, Madam Mayor, that we've got our consultant on notice. Catherine and I were speaking to her on the phone, and she did acknowledge that at this point, we don't know whether they could announce it next week. I think it will be before October 1st, to tell you the truth. I think with the election period in there, they want to get it out fairly quick, I think. So if there is going to be a second round, I do think they're going to get it out within the next month. We'll see.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, if there isn't any further discussion on that, then you've got the motion in front of you to receive the report for information. And further, that council delay updating the current development charge bylaw until the completion of the BM Ross Sanitary Master Servicing Study. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Hodgins. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, your next report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The next report is really just an information report. It's just to make council aware of the procurement services agreement with the County of Middlesex. We have been, and I was actually surprised when I dug into this, that we've actually had a procurement officer at the county since 2023. So I didn't I wouldn't have thought it was that long, but it has been that long. And certainly our use of his services has ramped up substantially over these last 12 to 18 months. So we are very appreciative of the service that they provide. But the agreement between the County of Middlesex and Lucan Biddulph with regard to the provision of those services, the agreement basically lays out the expectations and what the limitations are. So at this point, as your CAO, the mayor and I do have the authority to sign this, but again, it's an information item so that council and the public are aware of what the, I guess, the procurement officer at the county does in the relationship between the two parties. So.
And I would just add to it from a county perspective, again, the procurement officer came in and I don't think they anticipated how well used that department was going to be. And so this agreement just formalizes it between the local or lower tier municipality and the county. So that's it. Any questions or comments on that? Councillor Hodgins?
Just a quick comment through you. I think it's just it's a great program and a great partnership we have with that. And it's great also that it's just funded through the annual levy. I think we're leveraging that pretty well.
I think so.
Any other comments? Seeing none, then the motion is just to receive that for information. A mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Regan. All in favor? And that's carried. Did you have, oh, you've got the connecting link one. That's fine.
Yes, my third one tonight is with regard to the connecting link extension request. The Director of Public Works, Jeff Little, and I were fortunate enough to meet with the three staff members from the MTO with regards to our ongoing discussions regarding the extension of our connecting link agreement. The current connecting link agreement sort of follows the old Village of Lucan boundary, and that south boundary is in the middle of the intersection of Highway 4, Richmond Street, and Sainsbury line. So we would like to extend that approximately 700 meters towards what is really the Bell Telephone Building, I guess you could say, at the edge of town as you're coming into Lucan. So again, we did meet with them. We met them on site. We were in the parking lot at the new apartment building out there at Old Clover. And, we obviously were aware of the comments that came back from the MTO with regards to our concerns of pedestrian access onto Main Street from the occupants of the apartment building. And the one comment was, well, there are sidewalks in the existing subdivision. They can find their way via existing sidewalks to, for example, the Tim Hortons at the corner. So we said, okay, let's go for a walk. So we started walking, and by the time we hit Sainsbury and Francis Street, they had enough. It was hot enough, and it was the point was made very well because the one gentleman said, okay, nobody's going to walk this far out of the way. It's a very long way to travel to try and get to the Tim Hortons from the apartment building. So I think the point was well made. They understood, and I think it was a productive meeting. I think it was a respectful meeting on both sides. I had a good feeling coming out of that. We said, okay, how do we move this forward? And the suggestion was that a formal motion of council be made, and that's why you'll see in the recommendation in the report tonight. And I, Jeff and I both said, we'd like to know exactly what you want to see in this motion, because we don't want to have, miss a piece or anything. So let us know what you want to see in there. So she sent a couple examples, and Tina was good enough to, work her magic with the wording in the motion. So the motion is before the council tonight, and it formally states to the MTO that we are requesting an extension of approximately 700 meters south of the intersection on Sainsbury line. And that 700 meters basically lines up with the expanded growth boundary that we just approved in our latest official plan amendment. So that's the justification there. It is my understanding from our conversation at that meeting that we will be granted a meeting with the Ministry of Transportation during the upcoming AMO conference, the middle of end of next month, third week of August. So I do expect we will get a meeting. So we should get notice of that shortly. This was kind of a pre-meeting on their part to sort of gather information that they then prepare a report for the ministry staff that will be attending that meeting. You know, they were very helpful. They actually gave us some suggestions as to what they would like to see in the presentation. So Jeff and I and Tina and Maggie will be working on that presentation for that meeting. And yeah. Now, in addition to that, they also suggested that we reach out to not only our own MPP, who is obviously very aware of this request, but we also reach out to our MPP to the north. Lisa Thompson is the MPP in Huron County, and she is also a minister in the cabinet. So she's a little higher up the food chain, if you want to call it that. So it's always good to get more support. So we have reached out to Steve Pinsonneau's office to try and coordinate both Steve Pinsonneau, our MPP, and MPP Lisa Thompson out to a meeting to discuss not only the Connecting Link agreement, but also the urbanization of Saintsbury North. You know, right now we've got our second school, Clover Public School, is under construction. It's scheduled to open March of 2027. And while we're very happy and welcome that investment in our community for our second new school since 2010. Not only that, the province did announce 18 million for a new Catholic elementary school that will be coming at some point. But our infrastructure, specifically sidewalks, have not been able to keep up with that growth. And so that's another issue that we'd like to talk to both MPPs about. And when they're here discussing the Connecting Link, we're going to try and piggyback that discussion in at that time. So again, the recommendation before council tonight is to formally make the motion as, I won't read it all, it's fairly lengthy, but it is a formal motion to request the MTO to extend the Connecting Link. So that now I'm not going to be under any, I don't want council to have any illusions that this is going to happen in the next 6 months. There's still a lot of hurdles we have to cross, but I think this is this is a move in the right direction, and it gets the ball rolling.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Ron. Comments, Councillor Regan?
Just a question, if I may, Madam Mayor. So this is sort of like a first step, making it official. Is there anything else we should be doing to sort of expedite this, because it is needed and it needs to happen?
So through the mayor, I forgot to mention the 2 letters that were previous in the council meeting that you raised. The one letter actually was addressed it was an email. It was actually addressed to the MTO. We were copied on it, and the MTO did acknowledge that they did receive it and they did respond to it. I don't believe they told us what their response was to that letter, but they did acknowledge that they did receive it and they did respond to it. The other letter they didn't have, because it was only addressed to, I believe, Jeff Little, our Director of Public Works. So I did photocopy that and give them a copy of it as well. So they are aware of both of those letters. They've addressed one, not the other.
But his question, is there anything else we should be doing?
Well, I think
Thank you.
I think our next step is the meeting with the MTO during AMO. And I think after that, then we get what the next step is from them. So we say, you know, here's our case. What do you think? Where do we go from here?
Sorry, if I could just add, if it's inappropriate, let me know, but just should we be perhaps getting our MPP a little more involved, or if he's already involved with that?
So through the mayor to Councillor Regan, we typically, if our MPP is in the building during the AMO conference,
Yes.
we've always invited or extended that invitation to him to attend.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Ron. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other comments, Councillor Hodgins?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Just a couple of questions maybe about timing, and because we're making this request and council's directing staff to make that formal request for the extension. And then the next steps you talked about. But do we have an idea of when that agreement, the Connecting Link agreement, would actually be amended? I just wondered, like, would we do that early on and then it's extended and then, you know, some years later we look at urbanization, or would it be like, you know, it gets extended and the urbanization happens? Like we would defer taking that on. Because I'm just wondering what the second part of the question is, what are the immediate implications once we do that change? Like we take over the responsibility for maintenance and of that section.
So through the mayor to Councillor Hodgins, I think a major hurdle, and I'll put it that way, a major hurdle is this whole asset management thing, because the one of the three did mention that there's an asset transfer here, which I dispute, because we're not assuming the road. It's an agreement for the use of that stretch. That's all we're after. So I don't think the three people that we met with were the right ones to talk, nuts and bolts about the actual asset management implications of that. So that's another part, and that's the second or third time that I've heard that, and they really seem to have a mental block about that kind of thing. And it's like I'm missing something, or I'm not seeing something that they are not explaining to us properly. Because again, we're not going to own that section of road. It's still a King's Highway. It's still Highway 4. It's almost like an operating agreement. Like we're the renter, if you will. We look after certain things, and they still maintain the costs of the northbound and southbound lanes. But the parking lanes, the curbs, the gutters, the sidewalks, streetlights, the water main, the sanitary sewer, the storm sewers, all that stuff is our responsibility as the municipality. But again, we don't own it through Lucan. They still own that stretch. So again, we have to sit down with the accountants, if you will, to figure that out. But anyway, I think that's going to be our major hurdle. So timing wise, that's a hard question to answer. I don't know how long that will take to get over that one, but I would say we're still, if things went lightning fast, I would say a year from now, we may be able to get that connecting link extended. But then as to when we could proceed with, it's a big project. Again, we're dealing with sanitary sewer extensions, a replacement water main. It's an expensive number. It's a big project.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. No, I think maybe I'm getting into the details a little bit too far ahead. This is the first step, and totally supportive of taking this first step and having these conversations so that we can plan those works and have a bit more control. And if there's, interim things that can be done to make it more safe that we can do by taking on some of that, that's great. I think I was thinking, the maintenance of the shoulders and the ditches, when we want to take that on strategically. I think that's something that gets figured out later. But yeah, overall, just really happy to see this moving forward, and glad to hear that we had a productive meeting, because things weren't seemed like they weren't going so well for a while. So looking forward to what's next. Thanks.
Any other comments? Okay, with that, you have the motion in front of you. It is a lengthy one, and I'm not going to read it, but certainly anybody following along and that has interest in this particular project, I would encourage you to go to the agenda online and read the full motion. And as Ron mentioned, specifically, it has been developed with the MTO. So this is language that they wanted to see. And then obviously we've cleaned it up. So I would ask for a mover and a seconder for that motion, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Regan, all in favor? And that is carried. And that is good to see. Did you have anything verbal or anything, Ron?
No,
That's all you had. Okay, Tina.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Before you is another report. As council is aware, staff have been working on updating all of the Section 270 policies. So the two more brought forward in front of you tonight are the parental leave for council members policy and council and staff relations policy. These two will make a total of 6 updates that we've completed so far. These policies were originally brought forward in 2019. So they're actually not that old. So there was minor updates required to them. Basically, formatting, some wording, and putting the policies into today's current templates and the logo. So I won't go into detail about those. They are there for you to see the red line version and the clean copy. And then staff will continue. We have 2 more left to update in those 9 policies. So we're almost there.
Excellent. Anyway, any questions on the 2 policies in front of us tonight? Councillor Regan.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Tina, just with respect to the council and staff relations policy, if there's changes, is there any training for council and staff?
So through our, it is an election year, and our onboarding and training, those policies will be included and will form part of, there'll be a wide variety of training, but specific training to that policy. It will definitely be touched on when code of conduct training is provided with our integrity commissioner, and that may be a joint session for all lower tier municipalities, but definitely they will be included, and there will be more information provided, and it kind of encompasses a lot of the training, I guess I would say.
All right. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other comments? Okay, a mover and a seconder to receive the report for information and that council approve in principle the updated pregnancy and parental leave for members of council, policy number 100-15-2026, and council and staff relationship policy number 100-16-2026. Councillor Westman and Councillor Hodgins, all in favor? That's carried. Did you have anything verbal?
I do not, thank you.
Okay. And we have no buildings, so we are over to Catherine.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My first report tonight is regards to the funding plan for the Lucan wastewater treatment plant expansion and upgrade and the trunk sanitary sewer main project. So there's a bit of background there. Of course, this project's been ongoing for several years and was adopted or to proceed in the 2026 budget. We also have the Housing Enabling Water System Fund that we were approved for. And then there's been money set aside in the Housing Accelerator Fund as well for this project. And now that we have all the construction tenders awarded and information from the engineers on the project, and now the time we can put together the summary of what the funding looks like in the end. So in the project cost, so there's 2 sections of this project: the expansion of the Lucan wastewater treatment plant and the upgrade, and then the trunk sanitary main that was being constructed on right now. So that's why I have that split, because they're also by 2 different contractors and engineers. So the construction contract there and the engineering is for that portion of the project. And then there's costs that we've spent to get to this point as well. And those are laid out there for both projects, to bringing the total cost excluding HST of just over $22.8 million. And there's costs that go back as far as 2014 when we started talking about the Chestnut pumping station. But a lot of the other costs started more in 2020 when we really started formally planning for the expansion of the Lucan wastewater treatment plant. Little side note there, I have that noted where the costs that we spent prior to April 1st, 2023, the $466,000, that's important because the HUSIP grant only covers 73% of eligible costs since April 1st, 2023. And the HUSIP grant also does not cover any HST at all, not even the non-recoverable portion. So I try my best to lay this out in such a way, hopefully it makes sense and it's easy to follow. So after all those numbers, so we have for the use of grant to use $16.3 million of the grant. And then add back the HST non-recoverable to that, leaves us with a balance to fund of about $6.9 million. So then I've laid out the different sources of funding for that $6.9 million. Of course, we've been collecting development charges towards these projects, and I've listed there how much we've collected to date, plus what is expected of what we know now of building permits for that have been taken out but they haven't collected that money because it's deferred to occupancy. So we don't have that money, but we're fully expecting to have said money. I know there's probably and most likely will be future DCs collected, but it's hard to put a number to that because we don't know what that looks like. And of course, what happens with the new potentially if we address the new DC background study, which was discussed in an earlier report tonight. So any monies we collect, of course, will go back into the wastewater reserves, and that will help with any loan payments and other things that could happen in that. And then the other option, so we also have reserves that we can use. So we've had spending to date, the end of 2025, we have used reserves to fund that of 754,000. And then the proposed amount to use from reserves for the remainder of the project is just over $2.5 million. The Housing Accelerator Fund, the $2 million was, we anticipated to use from those funds for this project. But to date, I've only put what we've received to date in these numbers of 687,000 because we don't know if we'll get the final two payments. It really depends on, and I know the fourth payment for sure in the agreement, it depends if we've hit the housing targets. So I didn't want to, so I'm being conservative. Okay, if we don't get that, what does it look like? And then finally, to make up the difference, there's a loan program, in particular with the County of Middlesex, and I included their information as an attachment to this report of what that entails. But this project for the expansion of Lucan wastewater treatment plant and upgrades, I think fits very well with the intent of that loan program. And also what's nice about it is it's a interest-free loan, but you have to be paid back within 15 years. And that timing is determined once you get further along, if county accepts it. So the amount of the loan can be 4.8 million or the lesser of 4.8 million or 50% of the capital costs of the municipal portion of the project. So I took that to interpret our 50% of our 6.9 could be the max. So we could ask for just under $3.5 million if we wanted to, but it's also, if you read their information in that loan program, we should be using our reserves, things that we have. They don't want to replace using that if we have it. There's more to avoid other kind of debt. So, and also it's beneficial to the county to have this kind of potential for growth. It helps everybody's assessment. So in summary, I have the total cost for the Lucan wastewater treatment plant upgrade and how that's been how I'd like to fund that proposal. So the loan would be particularly for that section of the project, and the trunk main to use a little bit more of reserve. So the bulk of it is regarding the expansion. Of course, that's the bigger portion of the project. That's what I have right now. Of course, depending on the timing of the HUSIV grant payments, we may have to look at our cash flow and decide if we have to go with a construction project loan with Infrastructure Ontario, for example. But I have to really pinpoint when that second milestone payment will come in. I'm going to reach out and get an answer on that. It's in the agreement. It could be after our fall 2026 report, so we could see it at the end of the year or beginning of next year. So I think that would, and it's a major chunk of the project. The rest of the funding, other than a small holdback that they keep until you're done the project and do your final reporting, which is normal. But we also have a portion of the construction project expenses, they'll have a holdback that we don't have to give back until after construction's done. And I hope the two align because it's about the same if depending on the numbers that they use. As far as the holdback, they calculate that on the 18.5 million, or in our report, we might only need to use 16 million. So that's the scenario that we have now with the information that we have. So any questions, and I'll be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you very much, Catherine. Before I open it up for questions, I just want to say thank you. I know a lot of work went into this, and it's, there is a lot of unknowns out there. And I think what you've presented to council is, I found it easy to read through and understand. And so I appreciate that. And I will speak on behalf of council. I think you presented it in a way that we can all understand. And it certainly shows the time and thought that you put into it. So I really appreciate the work that you put into getting to this point. Comments, questions from council on this? Deputy Mayor Manders.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm having you repeat yourself. I just got a couple of things. Just that when you do submit, then I like what you presented, and I agree with what you're doing here. But just what would be the timeline for them to potentially deny it at the county? Do you know timeline when you do submit?
I think I have to give them amount of time, like and it really depends, I guess, as well, if this affects, if they're in any kind of a lame duck situation as well. But if we get past that and I don't know what the timing is when that gets on the agenda, I think I have to give them, I don't know, just quote it, as I say, 6 weeks notice or some kind of notice that we're gonna have this application, give them time to work through it and get it on one of the agendas. And after that, I don't know how quickly that comes into place, because there'll be some other agreements that would have to come forward and have council sign. So if we're in that time where we can't prove things, it might not be till December, but I think that is okay. I think I feel comfortable with that with the cash flow with this project. If it happens somewhere in even early next year, if we get it, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I just might step in if I can remember past applications that have come to the county. So if they were approved, let's say in the first meeting of March, likely it's coming to county in that second meeting of April or the first meeting of May. So they're, it's about 2 months it takes to push through.
Right. And then just a second question, and you somewhat answered it, but just with that such a large grant, that $16 million, and then the construction draws and that aligning, I guess there is no way to hold, like, there's certain construction stages where we obviously have to pay the contractor regardless of the grant, I guess. And then that's we have to make a decision, I guess, if we don't have the grant money released to us. There's no communication with the government saying, you know what, we're at this stage now. Can you release some funds any earlier, I assume?
The milestone payments they have are laid out in the agreement. We've already received 25% of the maximum, so we have about 4.6 million already received from them. Because that was after we signed the agreement and started going, give our initial report. And then the next one should be after the fall 2026 progress report. The timing of that, they haven't announced when that's due. The fall, probably October. I don't know, but then depends how quickly they review that and then release another 60% of the maximum funds. And then they hold on to 15%. So I'm hoping that timeline is they do it quickly and I get it within the year. And then I believe a lot of the bigger costs will be more in 2027 when the project's really underway.
Right.
Is what my understanding is. So.
Okay. No, very good. Well, no, thank you. And I think you've included the contingency in this as well in your math, so that's good. And then Jeff's obviously going to keep us updated which it's way too early, hopefully, to be hearing about that. But anyways, very good. Thank you.
Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Thank you very much for the report. The detailed report is laid out very clearly. Just with the grant funding maximum of 18.5 million, covering 73% of eligible costs. So it seems like the costs maybe came in less than what we estimated. So we're not using all of that 18.5 million, correct?
That's correct. With these numbers, that's how that worked out, the math. We can't, so it's always been communicated that we got a grant of 73% of eligible costs up to the 18.5, whatever the number is, really depending on how the tenders and how it comes out. We may, and these numbers do include using the full contingency. And of course, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know how much or how little we'll use of that. So we could actually come in less than these numbers, but we'll see.
Yep, thank you. And at this point, because we have our application in, like, we can't add anything to the project to, you know, utilize that 1 to 2 million extra. That's probably not allowed, or?
I don't have an answer for that. But as long as I don't know if it's part of the project, and then if it's part of we're doing the expansion or the upgrade of these two things, and it would be an eligible cost. And we report on those, what we're projected to spend on all these reports, but until we get to the final, we'll have final numbers, and that's what we'll go with. So if there is something else that is eligible that's part of this same project, then, and what we have outlined as the description in that project, I don't see why you couldn't.
But the grant is only for 73%. So it's not, so we still have to spend
Yeah, I
the
think
money.
Yeah.
Councilor Regan always wanted solar panels out there, something like that, some green, anyway, no, thank you.
Yeah, you'd have to
Information.
come up with.
Just kidding, just
You have to
kidding.
come up with our share of that, plus the HST that's not recoverable as well. So there is added cost, so that would be another discussion. Would we have reserves available to that? We'd have to do those calculations.
Hey, any other further comments on that? Okay, so the motion in front of us is that report FIN-11-2026 be received for information, and further that the funding plan be adopted, and further that council direct staff to submit an application to the County of Middlesex Loan Program. Mover and a seconder for that, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Westman, all in favor? And that's carried. Okay, your second report, Catherine.
The second report kind of goes hand in hand to what we just talked about in regards to the loan portion of the Lucan Wastewater Treatment Plant project. So every year, this report's just for information. Every year, the province gives us what our annual repayment limit would be, our ARL. And it's required to present to council an adjusted ARL if they're considering any sort of borrowing. So since we talked about that in the last report, then I've created these adjusted ARL to reflect that. The ARL for 2026 uses data contained in 2024 financial information return. So there's another adjustment that I had to make to it as well, because we had another loan that we approved in 2025 with payments starting in 2026. So I updated the ARL to include that loan for the soccer complex. And then I added in what the potential loan could be with using the $2 million for the county loan program. And it still leaves us with a pretty favorable position as far as what you could borrow in the future. So we were lucky to receive that grant program. So otherwise we would have extended ourselves if we chose to use it all. I wouldn't suggest using that, but we do have a lot of borrowing room left, as you can see in the report after it's been adjusted. So just for information, but if you have any questions, let me know.
Okay, thank you for that. Questions on that? Oh, yep, Councillor Hodgins.
Yeah, thank you. I always find this pretty interesting. It's good news, like our ARL, the way it looks. And if we would not have had this funding and went ahead with this project, it'd look a whole lot different, I think. So looks like we're in a great position to take on more debt if needed.
Mhm. No, and you make a good point, Councillor Hodgins, because if that grant doesn't come through, yeah, it is, it's a different story to tell. And, you know, I think for all of us around here, I mean, we've been working on this story and this application for a number of years. And, you know, you get frustrated because you're thinking, you know, you're not giving us anything, you're like, we're not making any headway, but, you know, all those years of relationship building and telling our story and just plugging away, it does pay off, does pay off. So. Okay, a mover and a seconder to just receive that report for information, please. Councillor Regan and Councillor Hodgins, all in favor? And that's carried. And your third report.
Okay, the third report is regarding the land sale net proceeds from the property that closed in February of 2026. Also been communicated through other council reports as the sale to Sean Gibson. It's that the lot that's north of the Heenan Drain in the industrial park area near where we have all our trees planted. So that land closed and that sale closed in February, like I said, and the net proceeds after closing costs and the severance and survey costs that was required leaves it just over $302,000 of surplus of net proceeds. So the question before council is what do you want to do with that money? And my suggestion is putting into reserves. Of course, with that, then there's lots of options of how you can do that for council. Going back to, I had a report last year in regards to other land sales that were completed with the split going in between going to the tax rate stabilization reserve and the Parks and Recreation Reserve. And that stemmed from the discussions that were had when 269 Main Street was purchased and how to replenish those reserves that were used for that. And so that's why I came up with that split again of the 58 and 42. And that's my recommendation, but of course there are other options that available to council.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. And comments on this report and recommendation. Thanks. Deputy Mayor Majors.
I support the recommended motion. Yes.
Yep. I'll second it. Yep. Yes,
Okay.
support it.
So it Deputy Mayor moved it, Councillor Regan seconded it. Is there any discussion on it? No discussion, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Anything verbal at all?
Just a reminder that water bills are due this Thursday.
Okay, be a lot of water being used this week. Okay, Jeff, you don't have any reports, but did you have anything verbal on for us?
No, not right at the present. I'll maybe speak to the motion that comes up in a little bit.
Okay, Darcy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know council has a chance to review my report, so I won't go word for word, but this is a report in regards to ice allocation. It's no secret to anybody that ice allocation is an issue. We're at a deficit of ice to try to run all our programs as we have been for the last couple of years. Obviously, there's more and more stress on minor hockey ice conveners as well as adult recreation, and we're trying to find a means and a way to get as many kids and adults into sports as possible. So what I'm proposing here is that we would basically pass a policy that we would push the adult recreation till 10 p.m. On weeknights. That would give minor hockey an extra half an hour on Tuesdays and Fridays. I do feel like this is obviously not taken lightly. This was a tough recommendation because there's a lot of people at stake here and a lot of recreation at stake. So I do feel the Friday would probably be an easier sell due to the fact that it is on a weekend night. The Tuesday night group, I know personally is going to have a tough time making it work at 10 p.m. They do rely on outside communities coming in to compete with them. And I think it would be a tough sell to get those outside communities here at 10 p.m. So I don't know. I did ask the group. I did speak to the group. I didn't get a response at any time before this meeting of whether that would be it for the Tuesday night rental if we were to do that. But I did have a discussion with the Tuesday night rental. I'll gladly take any questions from council.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments, questions? Deputy Mayor Mander.
I guess my initial thoughts are, would be to compromise and leave the Tuesday at 9:30 and bump adult rec to 10 on a Friday. I think, if the Friday walks, I would hope someone within, an hour radius of, Lucan Biddulph would probably take like 10 o'clock on a Friday night is not, to me, maybe someone else would grab that if unfortunately whoever is spoken for that time decides to leave. Hopefully you'll be able to get someone to use it then for 10 o'clock. If you can't, it'd be interesting to know that no one needs ice at 10 o'clock on a Friday night. I'd be curious to know that. So yeah, so anyway, I think a compromise would be is what I'm leaning towards. Thank you.
Any other comments on that? Councillor Regan?
I would support that, what the deputy mayor on that to reach a compromise.
Other comments?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm supportive of this. I've talked to Darcy about the report in the last week. And I just think we have to be mindful that we have more than one user group and more than one demographic that's using the ice. I'm just curious, because it's interesting to me that it's half an hour. So it's an hour, obviously it would be an hour difference on a contract, but it's not an hour in one day. So I'm just curious how it would benefit minor hockey to increase it each night by the half hour.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, so I did talk to minor hockey to try to get an answer, and it basically adds a game slot to each because some of the older age slots need the hour and a half for a game slot, and it just gives that half an hour that they can change a practice to a game slot, and it just allows that scheduling. So that's where it benefits them.
No, appreciate that clarification. That doesn't change my mind, but I do appreciate kind of where their thinking's at. As I say, I think it's just important that we recognize all user groups in the that use our facility. So there is a motion in front of us, and I would look to council to maybe update that motion accordingly. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I guess I'll just wing it there. The Tuesday would be remain at 9:30 and that we would change the Friday then to 10 o'clock and just from the request compromise of one out of two.
So if I may, Madam Mayor, we could amend the wording to say, and that council approve the adjustment of one weekday adult recreation rental currently scheduled to begin at 9:30 on Friday to a new start time of 10 p.m. beginning with the 26th. Yeah, just take out the Tuesday and change it 2 to 1. Okay.
Okay, and that is by the Deputy Mayor, and a seconder is Councillor Regan. And any further discussion on that? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Did you have anything verbal to add, Darcy? Nothing. Lisa, do you have anything verbal?
Thank you, through Madam Mayor. Sorry, I don't have a formal report. I've been on holiday. So just a quick couple of items I want to highlight. Since the last meeting, we had Canada Day, very successful. It was probably the hottest Canada Day yet. It's always hot, but this was super hot. So maybe numbers were a little bit down during the day on Canada Day, but fireworks was larger than ever for the number. So it was a great night. And thank you for everyone that helped out in the Parks and Rec staff for that. Part of the Canada Day funding, we also received some FIFA funding money. So we are hosting a FIFA watch party for the final game on Sunday at 3 p.m. in the multi-purpose hall at the community center. So we're partnering with Lucan Soccer to kind of have this little event. So that's part of the grant money that we received through that program. We had our first neighborhood grant event happen today on Butler Street. So a little road hockey tournament. So
that happened today. So hopefully the kids made it through today. It was a few hours of road hockey. Yeah. Yeah, we have our next movie nights in Granton on July 24th, and our night markets July 31st. Election wise, we're meeting at the end of July to go over the applications for the audit committee at the county building. So we're going to look at the applications that were received. We've received a few, so that's good, more than what we need. So we will review that. And not sure if anyone else can touch on it, but we have communicated about the office closure starting Monday for a couple of weeks. So that's been on our socials, on our website as well, just to tell people that we are closed for the 2 weeks probably. And I'll do another reminder probably at the end of the week. That's everything. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you for that, Lisa. Lots in there. Okay. Director of Emergency Services, Chief, over to you.
Through the mayor to council. The purpose of this report is to provide council with the results of a competitive tender with the supply of a pumper tanker for the Granton station. And we used the Middlesex County Procurement Office for that, and it worked great. They put a great tender together, and that part worked good. Unfortunately, we only had one submission from Metal Fab Limited. There was 5 people that took the tenders, and there was only 2 basically that worked on the tenders. One, there was a few questions and that they basically couldn't answer or couldn't commit to. And the other 3 were just too busy. They were all Canadian companies, but they are very busy now with a lot of procurement is going from Canada, staying in Canada. And I think that's what put a lot of work in there with that piece. We had a committee with myself, the district deputy chief of the Granton station and their pump operator. And we put out we formed our operational requirements of what we wanted that engine or pumper tanker to meet and its requirements. When we did that, we put all the features together for that pumper tanker, and that's where the specifications were all taken from. We wanted this pumper tanker to last at least 20 years with a 50 to 100 calls per year, and made it a very versatile truck. It's a pumper tanker. It can be used as a pumper or a tanker. So this submission from Metal Fab is fully compliant. It met all the requirements and scopes of the request for tender. The price came in at 60,000 less than our budget for it. And we have a truck in the Lucan station that was built by Metal Fab. It's been a great truck to us, and all the requirements through that building process was met by them. So we have it went all through the Biddulph Blanchard Fire Board last night, and they put the motions through for it. And that is the impact to budget. Like I said, we're 60,000 less. So I guess next motion is to proceed with this. Is there any questions on the truck itself or anything like that?
Councilor Regan.
Just wondering, Chief, when do we expect delivery?
The one of the purposes of this was to purchase a chassis, a 2026 chassis, which there's an emissions change in 2027, and we wanted to stick with the old emissions because there's probably going to be a $30,000 to $35,000 increase with that, and I'd rather not have a truck with first year emissions on it. So the chassis would be purchased this year, and the truck would probably be delivered in, I think, August or the fall of next year.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
A couple questions. Just it is amazing how expensive these emergency vehicles are. I'm just curious. I'll have a couple questions, but that truck for the Grand Fire, it's been a while, I think, since we've purchased a new vehicle. Or do you know roughly how many years? Or
I think it's 2018 when we purchased our last tanker. That's in the Lucan station, and all those were purchased previous to that. Our engine will be 25 years this year. So it's probably going to end up being a 30-year-old truck, the engine in the Granton or in the Lucan station. And this truck was previous to that.
previous to that. many
Previous to
years.
that, I figure it's like an 02, maybe,
Mhm.
03.
I guess where I'm, kind of going with this, as everybody knows, because it's been well advertised, we've decided to set up a new reserve for emergency vehicles, which is part of the tax increase coming up, and which represents something around 3%, I think, to start that new reserve. And obviously, this is from, needing to replace these old vehicles.
Through the mayor, that is correct. And one of the things that happened, we did our fire master plan, and we waited on the South Perth fire master plan. And basically kind of through that 4 year, it took about a 4 year period, nothing really happened. And now we're starting that process again. We are behind. But if we keep at it, I think we'll be all right. One thing with the newer trucks, they're built a lot better compared to the older trucks we were comparing them to. So I think we'll get more life out of it. And like our pumper in Lucan for a 30-year pumper is in great shape, but there's not many 30-year pumpers that'll be there by the time it's replaced. I mean, it's usually a 15 to 20-year life cycle, and we're going over that with these trucks. So.
Right, thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this? Councillor Hodgins?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, just with the getting one bid only, do we have anything in our procurement policy that speaks to that? Like, are there any special precautions that have to be taken? And are we confident that we got a competitive quote that we're happy with? Sounds like it came in under budget, so I'd assume yes, but just because we don't have anything to compare against, are we happy with the number that was quoted?
Through the mayor, I am very satisfied with the price of that truck compared to other ones I've looked at that have been sold. And I think it's just that it's towards the end of the emissions. Some of the problem was that some of the manufacturers couldn't get a chassis for a 2026 chassis this late. And it's basically just because we should have been doing this a year ago. And the timeline kind of got away on us. And I think it's a lot now that with this purchase, everybody trying to purchase a Canadian truck, that there were all those bidders and they're busy. So we had, it was New Brunswick and Manitoba and Ottawa and Quebec. But there was interest in it, but just I think they were busy enough. Like I said, there was two, but there was some questions through the one bidder off. And it had to do, I think, with the ISO 9000. We wanted that standard, and they had their own standard for quality assurance. And we wanted to stick with the straight quality assurance standardized, keep the playing field level. So that's where that came from.
Councillor Westman?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. Excellent work, Chief. Reading through the specs on it and talking to you about it, I was really impressed with some of the features that you've got planned in this vehicle. The three that stand out in my mind is the tank capacity, which is pretty big for that kind of vehicle. It's actually bigger than our other tanker. And then the SCBA air packs in the crew cab, so they can be fully suited up and ready to deploy as soon as they arrive on scene. So they're in the back of the seat, which is not an uncommon thing, but you have four, isn't it? There's a total of four in that one.
We have the officer's seat, which is the passenger seat, and then 3 seats in the back. And the reason we went with the double cab is more so we can transport firefighters from the hall to the scene instead of driving in personal vehicles, because that's basically the shift that we've got to look after.
Yeah, and I'm impressed with the quality of the equipment there. Now, the last one was the pump capacity is bigger, and it has more pump capacity than we have currently, which makes a huge difference when you're trying to get water on a fire. So yeah, it's pretty impressive that it came in under budget and we got all those features. Also, the cabinets are more suitable to what we need, not just kind of jerry-rigging things to make it work. I know that the cabinets were thought out very well so that we can store our spare bottles and extrication equipment, the spare set of extrication equipment. So it's really well planned out, and I very much appreciate that. Thank you.
Through the mayor, I think the biggest thing with this truck is we're asking it to do a lot of things. It's a frontline truck. It should be able to look after suppression if it arrives first at the scene through the Granton station, and now with amalgamation, like we have the Lucan truck and that. So, I mean, we're asking a lot of it. It kind of leans more toward a pumper, but it also can operate as a tanker and start suppression. And it's actually got a bigger pump than the Lucan pumper's pump in it, so.
Yes, this is a good news story and a good report. It's huge. It's huge for our emergency services for sure. So the motion in front of us is that the report be received for information and further that the Council of the Township of Lucan Biddulph award the tender for the supply and delivery of a new 4-door commercial pumper tanker to Metal Fab Limited in the amount of $740,000 plus HST. And a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Reagan. All in favor? And that's carried. Do you have anything else to report? Not at this time. Okay. Other business. We've got 2 items in front of us. And the first one's the Elginfield drain. And Jeff, did you want to speak to this one?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And through you, I just wanted to give a little bit of detail on where this Elginfield drain request came from. It has to do with Mr. Vanderberg farm over on Stonehouse near Observatory Drive. His farm is cut in 2 by the Elginfield, and he would like to shift the location. So to do that, it would need a change in the engineering report. So the work would be contained to his property, so the expenses and the cost of this will actually be to Mr. Vandenberg. So I just want to make sure council had that aware before the motion was passed.
Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate that. So you've got the motion in front of us, and that's to appoint Spreet as the drainage superintendent for this. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Regan and Councillor Westman. All in favor? And that's carried. The second one in front of us is a request that has come from community member, and I don't know who wants to take the lead on it. I think it was sent to Darcy initially, the request. Did you want to start the conversation?
Yeah, their request is for a rental to be given to the group. The group is doing a lot. They're starting to just plan it right now, so there's a little bit of unknown, but they did state kind of what they're looking for and what it would entail. I know requests like this have came to the past, and we threw it to council to get their thoughts on waiving the rental fee.
Okay. Discussion, council. Deputy Mayor?
Has there been any day of the week or time given to you, or is that something you will let them know if where this goes?
Yeah, they as they noted there
Or
in
I
their
didn't-
second letter, that it is still very fluent. They'll look into available days, but I haven't been told whether. I don't think it like had to be a Saturday. I think it was pretty comfortable that they would find a day that worked for everybody. But there hasn't been any conversation. It seemed like they might have a tough time doing it if the rental fee wasn't waived, so they didn't want to commit to anything until they knew where this decision lied.
And also I was wondering, just it may be use of it of the community center at that time. Whenever they talk to you about it, isn't going to be an issue. If it is an issue, I just thinking of another good area would be potentially the Scout Hall too. To use it. I mean, it's a great facility, and I don't know. You know, we do electronic pickups there throughout our whole community, driving in and out of there with electronic pickups, firing TVs and computers around. And it's got a parking lot there, and it's I'm not opposed to it. I just think might be more flexibility there to do it. That's all. Just a comment.
Any other comments? Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, just kind of looking them up a little bit here in the organization. It does seem like a great cause, and things that they do. So, if we can accommodate them through a free rental, I would be supportive of that.
I think it said in the letters, they're just looking for 3 hours. So not a full day. I have to, I have struggled with this one, just because there's a lot of good causes out there. I'm probably more apt to, be supportive of it, if we kind of go the deputy mayor's solution, and maybe use the Scout Hall. I just think the demands on our community center are great. And to give up that time, it's not that I don't support what they're doing. I just think it might be better at another facility. So, if we could maybe work with that. Councillor Westman?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. I'm a member of the scouting organization and a member of the hall committee there, and I think that that's something we could probably work out. I can also put it out to our volunteer groups with the scouting guiding, and maybe we can provide some support, manpower, like get some people out there to support them as well. So, the hall has great facilities. There's washrooms and kitchen and all that sort of thing. So it might be something that would be a good fit. And, like Deputy Mayor said, the parking lot's fairly sizable. We've made it work for our Earth Day and our pitching day and all that stuff. So we're able to maybe do that. So if I'll get the contact information. Maybe we can provide some volunteer support and also be there to guide them with the use of the hall and whatever. So yeah.
All right, so I would be looking for a motion from council, in some respect, to move this forward, to move this request forward. Deputy Mayor?
I guess I'll just make the motion to coordinate through Darcy to make sure that the scouting hall is not being used through the group. That'll be the most important thing, that they don't have an event that day, and that it's not rented out. And then you just work towards a date, and then ideally if and then Alex could, or however that works, letting notifying people. But I think that'd be a good solution, and it's just for a few hours. But the key is that there's nobody using it, obviously, not double booked.
And a seconder for that, please. Councillor Westman. And I'll just add, and it's just for the one event. It's not a reoccurring event, right? Okay. Donating the hall rental. Yes. So.
That Scout Hall rental would be a donation then, or yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Did you want?
Maximum 3 hours.
I would say, yeah, like two maximum of 3 hours. Does that work for you, Deputy Mayor? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just, read that council directs staff to coordinate availability of the Scout Hall with the Lions Heart Group and approves donation of the hall rental for a maximum of 3 hours. Okay, we're good with for the mover and the seconder. Did you have a question, Councillor? Okay, all in favor? And that's carried. Okay, and there wasn't any business arising. If there is business arising, please let Tina know so it can be added on the next council meeting. Councillor comments. Nothing? I've got one. So every year, Invest in Middlesex manages a youth pitch, which is a pitch your plan competition for students in grade 7 to grade 12. And there's 2 demographics, elementary school and secondary school. And essentially they pitch their entrepreneurial business plan as to what they'd like to develop, or they develop it, and what is their business plan to market it. And they get bragging rights and they get a Mac Air book. And so there's two winners, one, as I say, from the elementary school demographic and the next from the secondary school. And this year's elementary winner comes from Lucan Biddulph. And it's Isabel Bloman, and she pitched her plan for 2-bit. And it's an agricultural implement that's designed specifically for dairy and beef farmers, and it's meant to tube feed colostrum to calves in their infancy, supporting immune development. And it is both durable and environmentally friendly. So we congratulate Isabel on her success, and I have to remind everybody, that was the elementary school winner. And so we can only imagine what Miss Isabel is going to do as she gets older. So congratulations to Isabel. Okay, with that, there are no notices of motions. Okay, so bylaws, and we've got 3 in front of us. And just a reminder that the first one is for the 3rd reading of the Mitchell and O'Shea drain. So the motion in front of us is that bylaw 16-2026 be read a 3rd and final time and be adopted, and that bylaws 25-2026 and 26-2026 be read a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and final time and be adopted. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Westman, all in favor? And that's carried. And this is a reminder that our next meeting is Tuesday, August the 11th, and it is our daytime meeting. So we will be meeting at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, August the 11th. And with that, I will ask for a mover and a seconder to adjourn our council meeting at 7:57, please, p.m. Councillor Regan and Deputy Mayor Manders. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much, and we will see you in little less than